Hello students. I want to use this video to explain to you your field experience project and how to complete your field experience log sheet. If you will notice, according to your instructions, for this particular assignment that is due this Saturday by 11:59 p.m., you must write a statement or several statements on a Word document using the MLA format and indicating that you have viewed the video, you understand how to complete the field experience project and the log sheet. You also need to indicate that you understand that you will not pass this course if you do not complete the field experience project and the log sheet. You also need to indicate in that statement that you understand you must complete 10 hours of field experience for this project. Your final project, which will include your information gathered as you observe your case study student, as well as your written essay and any artifacts along with the field experience log sheet. All of this is due Saturday, November the 8th. So you know that you have several weeks to work on this project. Please take your time and do your best job, but do not procrastinate. Do not begin this November the 1st and think that you will have plenty of time to get it all completed by November the 8th. That simply will not happen. Okay, let's begin with the log sheet, how to complete the log sheet. If you look down under additional resources in this assignment tab, you will see 3 attachments. I'm going to go through each one of these attachments with you, and I'm going to begin with the log sheet. So if you click on the log sheet education field experience, it will pop up and it looks like this. You will place your last name, first name, candidate ID. This is your ID number through MyOzarka. The semester is fall 1819. In the course, make sure you list the prefix. I've posted that in your assignment tab, what it will be listed as. The name, the number and name, and then my name will go here. Also check mark what is your area of your major. Are you early childhood, mid-level, elementary? You may also be secondary. I did not put that on here, but you can write that in if you are a secondary major. The school district, you will only work in this, for this particular field experience project, you will only work with one student who attends one school district. So just place that school, the school name, and then the grade level of the student that you're working with for this case study. This is the section where you will indicate the amount of hours and the description of the hours that you're putting in, the actual work that you're doing. For example, you are probably starting with the log sheet and a journal. You are journaling as you observe the student. You will just be journaling notes based on your observations of that student. Put a date. Now, you will probably observe him several times. You will also have interaction with this student. We'll talk more about all of the specifics in a bit, but you will indicate every time that you observe that student, how much time did you spend observing him, what date, the school name. This will be your signature because you're the one observing this student. And then your title is, for you, is student for this project. Okay. Also, as you continue with your observations, you are finally, let's say that you have finally completed all of your journaling, you have observed the student, you've taken lots of notes, you have diagnosed the student based on your research from the textbook, you have come up with a diagnosis, and now you're ready to begin your paper, presentation/paper. You're just writing an essay on your findings. You may also need to reflect. You may take some time before you write your paper to reflect on all of your notes. So you would write that here as you process and analyzed and reflected on your notes. You are now preparing to write your paper, your essay. And again, date and time. For this sense, you're not exactly in the school while you're doing your reflection and your paper writing, so you can just put an X there. This will be your signature indicating that you are doing this work, and you print your name here, and your title is student. Okay? You may use all of this if you do lots of hours of observing him and you put it here and you fill this up and you need to move here. If you seem to be running out of room on this sheet, please feel free to make an additional copy and just attach it, and at the top you can just put continued from page 1, and you will just attach it to this sheet. Okay, at the end of this, you should total up your hours, and you should have a total of 10 hours. When you are filling out this section of the field experience description, you might write observing student in classroom. I spent 1 hour observing him in the classroom. So just put observing student in classroom, 1 hour. Let's say you are personal friends with this student's parents, so you might want to interview the parents and just get their input on when he comes home, how does the student respond to doing his homework? Does he struggle? Does he fight the parent against having to do the homework? In other words, does he put up a fight and say, I don't want to do my homework, and they pretty much have to force him to do it? So you may, if you know the parents personally, you may interview the parents, and you could document that. Interviewed parents, and let's say you spent 30 minutes asking the parents questions about this particular student. You would date that. You could put an X here, and here you would put the parent's signature if you interviewed that parent, and put their name, and their title would be parent. Okay? And after that, when you get to this section, if you're reflecting, you can just write out reflecting over notes and analyzing my notes. So it might take you might spend 2 hours just reflecting over your notes and going through the textbook and applying what you've learned in the textbook to this student. So you would just put that in here, and again, date it, an X in the school name, and that would be your signature, your name, and your title would be student. Okay, and certainly if you have any questions for me about how to complete this log sheet, please email me or call my office, and I will explain it to you a little further. Okay, now let's go to the actual field experience project. It is labeled Field Experience EDUC 2043 Exceptional Child. So when you pull this document up, here are your instructions for this case study project. You're going to observe a child in the classroom. You may have a friend, and I alluded to that as I was going over the log sheet. You may have a friend who has a child that seems to be struggling in school. That might be your best bet for this particular project. And you could observe that child in his classroom setting. See me before you go into a school, but you will need specific instructions on how to contact the school and proceed there. You may also observe this child at home as he's working on his homework, and that would be a great tool for your research because you could actually help that child and you could kind of get to know exactly how is this child struggling, how is this student struggling with this homework. So you're going to observe a child or a student, work with this student who seems to be struggling for whatever reason. And while you're observing and working with the student, I want you to also map a chart of his struggles and then determine the reasons for those struggles. And this is where you're going to use your textbook to guide you as to specifically what are the actual struggles that this student is having and what is the possible cause of this student's struggles. For example, this student may have some kind of cultural or ethnic diversity that is causing him issues and struggles within the classroom and learning his material. He may have a language barrier. He may have other disabilities that are described in this textbook. He may also be an extremely gifted student and he's just merely bored in the classroom. His exceptional needs are not being met, and that has caused him to become bored in the classroom, which will affect his grades because if he becomes bored, he feels like, why should I bother? This is boring. I don't want to do it. I already know how to do it. Therefore, why should I continue doing this? So sometimes that's the problem that the student is having. I just noticed an error in my typing. I apologize for that error. I was trying to get this out to you as quickly as possible. Please ignore that, and I will correct it later. But as we continue working through the process of exactly what you are supposed to do, continue observing this student. As you work with this student, think in terms of developing an IEP for this student that will accommodate this student's needs so that he can achieve better in the classroom. We want all students, of course, to excel successfully in the classroom. So I want you to develop an IEP, and that's part of what we're going to cover in the course of this class. So pay attention when we get to the IEP section, and you will create an IEP of how you can accommodate this student, things that can be done, steps that can be taken to help this student to be more successful. So you will create an IEP. After you have created the IEP, and you have diagnosed the student, created the IEP, and you've worked with the student, you're then going to write a well-developed essay explaining your process of working with this student and how you came up with his diagnosis and what led you to the specifics on the IEP. And I have a sample paper that I have also posted that you can look at to use as a pattern for writing your essay. It also might help you as you work with the student and you journal and observe and put together your ideas of what might best help this student in the classroom. these are some of the guidelines I want you to use. You can add to this, but do not take away, please. I want you to have at the top of your paper, I want you to include your analysis and synthesis, and this will involve the behaviors, the grades that the student is currently making, what are his work ethics, his attitude about school, work, homework, and etc. And as I said, you can add to that how you need to. The diagnosis, in the diagnosis, you need to include the social aspects of this student as well as the academic aspects of this student. The intervention, this is going to be the IEP that you create. Evaluation, when you evaluate this student, try to work with this student utilizing the IEP that you came up with, and then evaluate based on the student's prior work ethics. How has the IEP that I created for this student made a difference? And evaluate that. The final section of your paper, the written part of your paper, should be your reflection, where you reflect back over the entire project and what you as a teacher candidate gained as a result of this project and working with a student who is struggling. At the end of your paper, I want you to attach all the artifacts that you use. You will also attach the IEP that you developed at the end of the paper, and anything else that you came up with. Perhaps you came up with a plan for the student. He could sit down and he could do step 1, step 2, and step 3 in doing a particular assignment. Whatever you come up with to use with that student will be attached as an artifact. Please label each artifact 1, artifact 2, artifact 3, and etc. In this section of the written essay intervention, do not put the IEP on the IEP form in that section. In this section called intervention, that's where I want you to discuss and explain what were the intervention steps that you came up with for his IEP. And I also want you to analyze that. Why did you come up with those steps? And after using it somewhat, how effective was that IEP for that student? Okay. Here is a sample. Let me move this to later. I will finish that. I make myself memo notes that pop up to remind me of all the things I have to do, so I apologize for that. But let me show you very quickly the sample paper. This is how your paper will be labeled. For the MLA heading, make sure that everything you submit to me this semester is completely set up in the MLA heading. The MLA format, with the MLA heading and the page header, and then the title, and then you'll begin your essay. So you'll see this begins with the analysis and synthesis. It proceeds into the diagnosis of the student for the case study. The intervention, these were the plans of coming up with ideas and avenues that might help the student to function better in the classroom as well as working on its homework. You might, in the intervention, include ideas about the homework as well as the student's social skills that will help you. And as we scroll on through, we get to the reflection section of the paper, and this is where you're going to reflect back on you as the teacher candidate and how this student, this case study, this student, this project, the work that you put into this student, how is that going to help you as you are preparing to become a classroom teacher. And notice the artifacts. This student only has one artifact included in this assignment. You will also have to include the IEP that you create as an artifact, and then anything else that you come up with, whether you create it or you find additional resources to use with that student. Those additional pieces will also be included as an artifact in your final paper. Okay, I have thoroughly covered with you your project and what you are to do for your field experience, which is due November the 8th. And I have explained to you how to complete the log sheet, how to do the actual project of the case study, as well as provided you a paper to use as a pattern as you are preparing your own research, observations, and writing your own essay. Remember, do not use this student totally as the guide, because this student was a teacher's aide and had access to things that you will not have access to unless you are a teacher's aide and you select one of your students. But make this your project, your case study, and I want you to delve into this and get out of it what is going to be beneficial to you as you're preparing to become a classroom teacher. You're going to have a classroom full of students, and you are going to have several students in your classroom each year that is having struggles and difficulties, and it's going to be up to you as the classroom teacher to delve into each student independently and figure out what are the students' struggles and how can I best help this student while this student is in my classroom. Okay, I've enjoyed spending this time with you through this video. Please let me know if you have any questions as you work through this project. I'm excited to see what you come up with. I'm very excited about what you're going to get out of this project, as well as what you're going to pour into this project. Have a good day and enjoy your project.